Hello, and welcome to another round of Sarah Sabin's Question Time. And welcome back to January 2026 as well. Today's question was courtesy of a client of mine. And he asked the question, Sarah, I have prepared for this important thing, like my life depended on it. Why wasn't it a success? Now I've left the thing open. It could be an important board meeting. It could be that you're doing a presentation internally or externally. It could be that you're doing a pitch. Fill in the blank. The key point here is that whatever it is of vital importance to you, or you feel like it is of vital importance to you. And the perception is everything. It's the kind of thing that you might be telling yourself, if this doesn't go well, all hell will break loose, the sky will fall down. Obviously, we know it won't, but we have a tendency to perhaps over dramatize. So, obviously, preparation is key. And I mean practical preparation for whatever you're doing. And I'm not going to take away from the importance of that. Remember, there is a fine line between over preparation and under preparation. So if you're over preparing, there's often psychological reasons why you feel the need to do that. But in this video specifically, I'm going to be talking about the internal environment that you want to stimulate to give your presentation, pitch, whatever it is, the greatest possible chances of a successful outcome. And the successful outcome could be, for example, I'm doing this presentation and I want everyone there to be like, this is great, we're on board, go off and do this and implement this strategy, for example. Now, the problem is where you go into these kind of things with this feeling of, I need this outcome to happen, or I need this meeting to go a certain way, or I need this client to come on board. I've talked in past videos about needy energy being repellent. People can feel it even if you think that you're not being needy because it's coming across in your nonverbal communication. Could be your tone of voice, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak. You are giving off these primitive signals that other people are picking up on. And the thing is that where you are absolutely gung-ho about a particular result or outcome, and you're creating this needy energy, you're essentially pushing people away from actually following whatever it is that you're trying to say to them or get them to do. So we all know where we feel someone is being pushy or needy, it's repellent and we want to run away, do the opposite, argue, fill in the blank. An example I often use is, for example, if you are telling your kids all the time, don't smoke, don't smoke, don't smoke, don't smoke. One day, they are very likely, because you've been reinforcing that for years and repeating it, that they will go out and try smoking. So, what kind of state do you want to be instead? You want to be in a state of neutrality in relation to the outcome. Now, I appreciate that is very difficult at times, so I'm going to give you a quick way to try and balance yourself out as much as possible. But the idea is that when you go into the meeting, you are not attached to whatever positive outcome you had previously been attached to before. Now, a quick way of just starting to balance yourself out is to consider the worst case scenario. And you may say, well, Sarah, shouldn't I be super positive all the time? You may think that's helpful, but actually, considering the worst case scenario and preparing for it and psychologically preparing for it as well reduces the likelihood of that worst case scenario occurring. And as I said, it tends to balance out how you feel about the whole thing. So obviously, you're probably going to have this positive outcome that you want in mind, but you're also going to consider the worst case scenario. So you go into the meeting and everything goes tits up. Pardon language. So you go into the meeting and the board hates your idea, hates the strategy, tells you it's absolute rubbish, tells you they don't want to go ahead of it. And basically, if that happened and you were unprepared for it, you are going to be understandably crushed. But if you've already psychologically prepared for it in advance and you've accepted it as a possible outcome, and here's the important point here, not only accepted it as a possible outcome, but almost to the point where you're like, it would actually be cool if this worst case scenario happened, because here are all the benefits of this worst case scenario happening for me. So, for example, all the learnings that you would draw out the worst case scenario happening. For example, I've learned that I need to be neutral before I go into meetings if this worst case scenario happens. I know that I really need to work on my communication skills, and now I've been given a bit of a kick to do that. I know that I really need to frame how I do things in a certain way. I know that I need to prepare a bit less practically and go a bit more with the flow and intuition and really read the room properly. I've learned that I can come back from anything stronger. And if you've got past memories that support this, so something that you thought was the end of the world and actually you ended up stronger and better as a result of it, and people had even more respect for you, because people do. People love a comeback king or queen, right? It increases the level of respect that you would have for that person, because a really strong leader is not just a leader when everything's going swimmingly, it's when everything hits the fan and they come back stronger and better. An example of that that comes to mind is Steve Jobs when he was literally fired from Apple, went to Pixar, made Pixar a success, came back to Apple again. But if he'd have given up at the point of being fired from Apple and been like, well, I'm a loser, that's it. um, Numerous wonderful things wouldn't have been brought into the world. So, coming back to the point, you are going to consider the worst case scenario and tell yourself all the reasons why it's going to make you better. And then you're ready to go into the meeting because you are at a level of neutrality, whether the best happens or the worst happens.